Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you for tuning in for episode number 50 of Talking About Horses. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Anja Beran. Anja Beran spent a major part of her childhood at her grandfather's hunting lodge in Bavaria, surrounded by hunting dogs and horses. There, she decided that she'd one day either be a forester or a professional rider. She ultimately chose riding as her life's work, traveling to Portugal in 1985, where she initially rode with Senor Luis Valença, and later met and worked intensively with Manuel Oliveira. In Germany, she spent 16 years under the tutelage of Mark de Broisia, training horses of all breeds before eventually managing and running Gut Rosenhof in Rudderstride, Bayern, Germany. I hope I said that okay. Anja has written several books and articles and produced DVDs focusing on the classical development of horse and rider. And I'm pleased to have her join me as my guest today. Anja, thank you so much for joining me today on Talking About Horses.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's great. It's great to have you with us. And when I put out these posts that I was doing these interviews, your name popped up several times. So we've got lots of listeners that have been following you and are really excited to hear this interview.
Oh, thank you.
Great. So actually, I'm loving this reading that you had studied with Luis Valença. I travel to Portugal every year to study with the Valenças, and just had Senor Luis and Sophia on here 2 or 3 weeks ago doing an interview. So
it's interesting.
Yeah. Great to see the connection there. That's fantastic.
So it's long time ago.
Yes. So tell us about that, if you don't mind. Take us back there. Tell us what led you to Portugal and talk about your time there.
Yes, I started here in Germany with a very old master who had a Lipizzaner stallion, and he was riding much more kind and gently than I saw the riders who competed, and they have been a little bit hard, and he was really fine. And I asked him, where can I learn this? It looks so nice and so light. And he told me the only country you should go is Portugal. And so he sent me there. And the most famous teacher and who really had lots of schoolmasters was Luis Valença. So I went there, and I was there for 2 years, so only in holidays, of course, okay. School holidays. And there he was friend of Manuel Oliveira. So I met him there when I was 15, and he asked me if I want to ride a bullfight horse one day. I said, yes, of course, because with 15, you want to ride everything.
You want to ride everything,
yes. So I went there, and yes, it was so interesting. And Manuel Oliveira had no pupils in this time. He was just training his own horses. And so it was just him and me, and we started, and I loved this. It was a really very light way, very interesting. And the bullfight horse is very explosive. So I discovered there's so much to learn. And yes, like this, we had a partnership of 26 years.
Wow.
Quite a long time.
Yes, that's fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's great. So lots of time there in Portugal. Did he travel back? You stayed in Portugal at that point?
Yes, all school holidays, and later after school, really very, very often. And Manuel, he traveled here, and I worked 16 years with Marc de Broisia, who was a very classical master, a French master. And so we worked all three together. Was really interesting, because it was not only the work with the horses, where we had many talks by night, hours and hours and hours, and how to handle this, and how to sit on this horse, and how to help this horse. So I think it was really very, how do you say, intense, was really strong. And yes, I didn't want to miss it. And I think it's that who made me what I am now.
That's fantastic. Well, and what you are now, when we watch videos of you riding, of course, we haven't yet met in person, but when I watch videos of you riding, I think elegant is a great word to use there in talking about that with yourself and your horses. Watching the lightness, the softness in there, It's actually a question, if I can jump into this, a question that came in ahead of time from one of our listeners was, can you tell us what makes your horses, this is a question from Amalia, can you tell us what makes your horses so light and soft in the contact?
Yeah, the answer is very easy, but the way to do it is very difficult. The answer is, if you have the horse really in balance, that means collected, the horse is automatically light in your hand. But how to find collection is a very complicated way and needs lots of experience, lots of exercises with the horses. But the truth is, the light contact is the result of balance.
That's a great way to put it. And you work with several different breeds. And so some of those breeds obviously are more naturally suited for this balance and this collection work, yes?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, it's just the best is you get a horse when he's just 3 years old and you start with him. And then the breed is not too interesting. If it's a Portuguese horse or German warm blood, doesn't matter. You can train both in the same fine way if you start them well. The problem starts if the horse was ridden very deep with the nose on the ground and if he knows draw reins before and all these things puts him on the forehand, and then you start with the horse very heavy on your reins, really leaning on the shoulders, and then it becomes difficult. And also this has nothing to do with the breed.
Perfect. Okay, so it's all about the beginning and that understanding right off the bat.
Yes, of course, most of the horses you get light later too. But if you have a horse completely on the shoulders, you need much more work. You need sometimes years and years and exercises, gymnastic every day to put the horse in balance. But if you start with a 3 years old, it's normally not too difficult.
Okay, perfect. So for some of our listeners that have those horses that maybe have got a history of working into the shoulders, right, being heavy on the forehead, what are some of the exercises that you would use to help bring them into balance?
Yes, the best you can do is the lateral movement.
Okay.
All lateral movements, but of course you should pick up some who really help this individual horse, but all shoulder in, half pass, travers, all, how do you say, croup in, all these things help a lot. You just should learn, and your experience helps, of course, a lot, which exercise in which moment for which horse. But the key are the lateral movements.
Okay, fantastic. Because in those lateral movements, we're encouraging the haunches to be stepping deeper under the body, yes?
Yes, of course. That's one thing. The horse gets really mobile, helps you to put the horse straight. For example, you can make one weak hind leg, you can make more stronger with a lateral movement. You engage, for example, always the right hind leg if you want, with a special movement. So you put the horse straight, you make the horse really mobile. The horse comes very good to your aids. And at the end, it comes to collection. It's a result of the lateral movements, yes.
Okay, perfect.
That's the reason. Yeah, sorry. That's the reason why we made our first online clinic only about lateral movements, because they are really the most important thing in classical dressage.
Yes, and that's something I know we talked about chatting about the online clinic, and I think that's a great introduction to that there. Can we talk about this online clinic that you're doing?
Yes, we do it about 5 weeks. So every week we open one, how do you say, chapter? Okay. And we start first just with leg yielding and overstepping. It's just a basic lateral movement, and we always explain how and why and how you can start in hand and under the saddle and how it should look like at the end and how you can help the horse with this. And then we come to more difficult lateral movements like shoulder in and counter shoulder in and travers renvers and later a half pass. And the last thing is that we explain why the lateral movements, and we explain or we show horses with problems. They are not straight, these horses, they are very asymmetric. And then we explain what lateral movement for this horse is important. And then hopefully the people, the riders at home, they can use it for their own horses. But they have to find out what is the stiff side and what is the side the horse is naturally bent.
Okay.
That's
And how
very
do we find
important.
that out?
Yeah. How?
Yes. How do we find?
Yes, for example, we lunge the horse to show, even if you lunge a horse only with the cabeçon, you can see to one side the horse always looks to the inside and is a little bit leaning on the outside shoulder, wants to make the circle always bigger and bigger, is even pulling a little to the outside. So there he is natural bended. And on the other side, the horse is falling into the circle, is looking to the outside and falling onto his inside shoulder. And like this, you have already an idea what is the stiff side and what's the side the horse is bent to.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. And I love what you talked about there with the understanding why and how the lateral work works with our horse, because without that understanding, how can we help the horse, right?
Yes, because it would be very simple if we just have to put weight from the shoulders to the back. So make the forehand or the shoulders more light. That would be very simple. The problem is the length of the horse is never straight. There's always one diagonal, more strong, one more weak. The croup is hanging on one side, on one shoulder is more weight. So this is the problem at the end, to put the horse really that he's able to put on each leg the same weight. And that's the problem.
Yes. Yes. Well, that makes sense. And with knowing, being able to see where our horse has the trouble, then we can choose and decide which exercises are going to suit.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Perfect. Good. So you talked also about bringing the horse to the aids, and that's something that when we watch the videos of you riding, the aids are extremely light. Yet when we see some riders riding, there's not so much lightness there, right? We can see some pulling and some pushing and some, begging with the aids. So how do we go about this idea of getting the horse light to the aids in this way?
First of all, of course, you need a seat, a good seat. That's the basic thing. But second, and that's not very fashion, you should train your horse in walk. And that's not very fashion. Many riders just let the horse walk without reins, and then they take reins and start immediately trot and think they do all the important work in trot. And that's wrong. Is not wrong. It's a way how you can do it. But I prefer to make really a very good gymnastic in walk. And the good thing is in walk, all of us riders, we can give the aids very exact because we can sit very calm. So I start to speak or to get into a conversation with my horse in walk. And I try in walk to give him first a little flexion, later I bend him. Then I start all the lateral movements in a very calm walk, like a dancer who makes all movements very slow in the beginning to make them very precise. Okay. And like this, I can give the aids more and more fine. Always I ask myself, can I give my leg more fine? Can I do less with my fingers? Don't use your arm or your hand, just maybe the fingers. And I always try to be more and more fine. Of course, body tension, body language is a very important part of it. You have to use your body to help the horse. But yes, in the most finest way you can. And if you give, for example, aids with the spurs or so, don't do it all the time. Bam, 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 you see very often. No, you ask the horse very polite. If there's no reaction, I ask one time really very suddenly and stronger. And if there's a reaction, I caress the horse and then I try to be fine again. So little by little, the horse knows I have to do it anyway. So if she asks very polite, I follow and it's made. And then, of course, don't give aids on and on and on if the horse is doing what you want. That's a big mistake of many riders. The horse is already in a perfect moment and they still push with the legs and it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just going to dull the horse, right? Going to ignore the aids then.
Yeah.
Yes. So you mentioned that we have to have a seat first, right? And you've got your book, The Dressage Seat. I have a copy of it here. I actually have 2 copies here.
Okay.
So in case I wear one out, I guess. But so how, as riders, how do we develop the seat? I think you do a great job of showcasing that in the book and talking about each of the pieces that make up the rider's seat. Can you tell our listeners about that?
It's not so easy. There are 2 things very important. One thing is to have a very good schoolmasters. who shows you what is a swinging back. A horse that is not running under you, because if the horse is running, maybe you are afraid, or maybe you are all the time, you have to do something to stop this horse. And the horse should not be lazy too, because if he's lazy, you are always in trouble to push him forward and you cannot be concentrated on your seat. So you need a really perfect schoolmaster that is straight, relaxed, fine, and that shows you, this horse should show you the position. And this horse should also explain you better than the instructor on the ground how you should use your body, because he will react very good and in the correct way. So this is one thing, a good schoolmaster. And of course, he should be fine in the hand, because if he pulls you, you cannot sit. And there are so many things. So the schoolmaster is one thing. On the other hand, of course, you should be, how do you say, sporty. You need a strong part in the middle of your body. You need muscles, belly muscles and back muscles, of course. And you have to have a very good body tension and coordination, because it's not so easy to have a good body tension here in the center and to have relaxed arms and legs. Because many people, if I tell them a little bit tension, they are stiff and they cannot move on the horse. And if I say relax, they are and then they move everywhere. And that's difficult, to be strong in the middle, to use your muscle and to relax your arms and legs. And that's not easy. And of course, then you have to follow the horse and so on. Riding is so difficult.
But that's all.
It's too difficult. That's why we always continue, because we always think maybe we catch it, but we never will. But we try and try and try.
Yes, certainly, certainly. And of course, it's great for riders to do things off of the horse, right? That they can learn to develop those skills.
Yes, of course, all people who are dancing or making ballet, also, they are really have good coordination normally of body, good body tension. They are straight in the hips, straight in the shoulders, not like this. These are all very important things. Sometimes people are like this and they don't realize. So it's also important to go to a physiotherapist who looks if you are not blocked somewhere, and if you are straight, if your legs have the same length, because all this has influence on your seat and at the end on your horse.
Yes, absolutely. If we're not balanced or symmetrical, we can't expect them to be.
Because we want to take with our body influence on a body of about 600 kilos. So if we don't control ourselves, it's very difficult. And that's the problem, the self-control. And we riders have another problem, is the control of the body and here, the mind. If the horse makes 20 times the same mistake, you have to breathe and restart, smile and start again. And don't get angry, because then you destroy your work maybe for months. So just breathe and repeat, stay calm. So we have many points as riders who are very, very difficult.
Yes, and I think the hardest one of those is breathing, isn't it?
Yes, breathing is also a part of a good seat. There are many riders, they lose their seat because they stop breathing. When they get nervous or too concentrated, they stop breathing. And breathing is very, very important. My riders and we made exercises in breathing with a singer of opera, because they know how to breathe. They can take air inside, and then when they are singing, it's coming out very slow and very long. So there you can learn a lot.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And of course, practicing this off of the horse so that we have the skill when we're riding.
Yes, we can train a lot out of the saddle. We don't have to sit on the horse all the time.
Yes, very true. And so with that in mind, we talk about classical schooling. And I know in your book, I have this other one, Classical Schooling with the Horse in Mind. You mention a lot of work in hand, a lot of work on the lunge, that sort of thing. Where does that factor in with your horses? Is that something that you're only putting at a young age? Is that something you use as they develop?
I launched them only with the covers on for two reasons. One reason is that they can go as they want and they feel free. The other thing is I want to watch how they use their bodies on a circle line. I want to see if they are falling inside, pulling outside, if they have the head very high or too deep. So I watch them. It's for my analysis. So this is important. And then later, the work in hand, I just do with some of the horses. For example, all the horses not too tall, 150, 160. I like to do a lot of work in hand if the horse loves it too. For example, they are stallions, they get very aggressive. They want to bite you all the time and bite in the rain because they are too stallion, too hot. So I don't do it with them. But if the horse, I see the horse likes it and we have a profit, I do it. And with the horse is very tall, actually I have one with 1.82 m, so it's almost 2 meters. I don't do it because I'm too small and makes no sense. It's stupid to do it with a horse like him because maybe he discovers how strong he is because he makes ones like this and I will fall, no? And yes. So it's not necessary. So the work in hand is something you can do and you can have good results with it, but it's not a must. I also trained horses to very high level without doing one step in hand.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. And do you find a difference with those horses that you haven't done the work in hand? Is it a slower progression when you're working under saddle, or do you find that it comes just as easily?
No, it's almost the same, but as I work here for, I think, more than 13 years now with Vera, she's my first rider. And the good is we can work together. So if we have a horse that is not good in work in hand, I put her on. She gives the aids already and I help from the ground. But the good is I don't have to lead the horse with my hand. The horse has a little bit more distance to me. And nevertheless, I can help with the whip a little to touch the hind leg or make him a little by side around me. So we work together. And like this, we have the best progress normally.
Yes.
It's the easiest way for the horse. Yeah, it's the easiest way because he has on one side the aids of the rider and the help from the ground.
Yes.
Hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that talks a lot to the experience, right, that you would be bringing to the table. And so that would be important for riders to understand. This wouldn't be, just the first time out in the arena. Let's see what happens, right? No,
you need really, we work a lot. Vera, she makes about 11 or 12 horses a day.
Okay.
I'm not as young as her, so for me it's too much. But I do it now for 32 years, all the day, and minimum 8 horses. And that gives you a lot of ideas what can happen. But I'm still hopefully not at the end. But you have already something you can think on. If you get a horse, okay, I have maybe had 5 horses who made the same problem. So I always try to find a way to solve the problem.
Perfect. Good. So we're talking about classical schooling of the horse. You mentioned earlier seeing riders in the arena or seeing riders anywhere that are maybe not so nice, not so soft. Maybe these are riders we wouldn't necessarily call classical. Yeah. How would you define when we talk about classical schooling? What makes classical schooling?
It's not so difficult. Classical is that you respect the nature of the horse. So first of all, we try not to do any movement that the horse would not do when he's free outside. So the nature, we try to copy the nature. We look what the horse is doing and we try to make all these movements, flying change, piaffe, passage, we try to get all this. And so is on the other side, the horse, the individual horse, who gives us the time frame. That's another important point. We never say a horse with 4 or 3 has to do this, with 4 this, with 5 this. No, we see the horse and we realize his problems and we have to find a way to put this horse into balance. And maybe one has to go away on the left, the other one on the right, but at the end we meet and we get the result. But there's not one way and there's no time frame. And we respect each horse and try to find the best way, and we make not with every horse the same gymnastic. That's also the same. But what I said, the lateral movements are different for every horse.
Mm. Yes, yes, perfect. So let's see. Yeah, so we talked about the seat, of course, being very important. We talk about here this classical schooling. What would you describe as some of the things maybe you would call not so classical with the horse? We talk about the classical schooling. We want to ask him to do anything that he does in nature, and we follow his timelines. How would we, if we were to look at someone schooling a horse, how would we decide this is classical or this is not?
Yes, I think the problem is the business. So nowadays we have very, very good horses. The breeders, they produce very, very talented horses, very good movers. And but everybody who wants to sell a horse very expensive is trying to put the horse when he's just 3 years old he wants to present the horse in a way as the horse is 7 or 8. So means, for example, with the head up in a sitting trot, with the best movements the horse can show ever. Normally, he should show these movements when he's 8, 7, 8. No, but he has to show it when he's 3. So they do all too early and they do too much, and then they can sell the horse very easily because the people pay. Because if I see a horse with 3, very talented, and see all the movements, I think, maybe this is a horse for Grand Prix. So I pay a lot. But the best would be, we forget all this. We don't present 3 years old horses in a way like this. And we need really professional people who can tell us this horse later can be very good. But actually, we present the horse on a market as the people want to see the horse, the young horse. And that's not correct. And that's the moment where riders lose the classical way.
Yes, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that there's some, we talked earlier about the experience, right? The experience on the part of the trainer. Do you think that that plays a bit into that, the experience of these buyers that are looking at these horses? Maybe they don't see where that horse could be, or potentially the damage for what he's doing right now.
Yes, they pay a lot. They don't see it because they are not professional enough. So they think, looks good, moves very well, so I pay. So I have a good horse later. The truth is the horse made all this much too early. And at the end, and it happens a lot, I have lots of clients because of that. At the end, they have a horse 4 years old, completely broken. Problems at the tendon, problems in the stomach, problems in mind, against the rider, and so on. So we have here many horses, especially stallions, to, to recover.
Okay.
Because they have problems, because they made all too early and too much. And it's not because these buyers want to do something bad. No, it's because it's offered like this, so they buy. And at the end, it's really for the horses a disaster.
Yes, yes. And so the goals and the money sometimes get in the way of the horses.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do quite a bit of recovery, of rehabilitation of horses?
Yes, a lot. Because the truth is, if you have a training center, it's not very often that you get a horse when he's 3 years old to break him in and train him. No, normally people come with the horse if something does not work.
Yes.
If the horse is, rearing or bucking or other problems, so then you get the horse. So you do a lot of these things. And for some years, I do it especially with warm blood stallions. They are, improved as stallions.
Okay.
They got high notes. And after the test, they've been really finished. All of them in the stomach, some in the tendon, and really difficult. And so we try to help them. And it's a tragedy because the quality of the horses is really out of the normal level. They are really, really good, but they have so many problems, or they walk like camels and so on. And there's a lot of work to do with them. But I like this work because we learn a lot. And the stallions, they get little by little more and more happy and more healthy. So I think all of us enjoy it.
Yes, very good. And it's so true what you say. As a professional, as a trainer, it's very rare that you get that untouched gem that's
Yeah.
just ready to develop, right? You're
Yeah.
always fixing a problem or tweaking something that has
Yeah.
gone wrong.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have two clients, very good clients. One is the biggest circus of Europe. They always give me the horses when they are 3 years old, and we start. And the horses stay about 8 years here, and they don't touch. And after 8 years, they go to the circus. Normally, they work there until they are 28, sometimes 29, and then they come back to me for the end, and they go here on the field. So that's a very nice cooperation. And I
Yeah.
have one German state stud. They also gave me the horses 3 years old to start. And that's interesting, this work, of course, very
Mm.
interesting.
Yes. Yes. That's got to be pleasing to see
Yeah.
that progress and
Yeah.
then to see them come back to retire.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, fantastic. So you talk about working with the circus, and you mentioned the horses that have problems sometimes in the walk that'll walk like a camel. And I happened to notice on your website some photos of you with some camels, which struck my interest. I had a bout where I did some camel training several years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like you've got a lot going on there at Gut Rosenhof. Is that the name?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we have a foundation. And of course, most important thing for me is to keep classical riding alive. So we try to promote this a lot and do a lot for this. But other thing is the protection of the animals, all animals. So here we had altogether 4 camels, we have llamas, we have all kinds of pigs, we have goats, we have all really many animals, cats and dogs and all. And that's really a very interesting and nice life to live with all these animals together.
Yes, I think interesting is a great word for that.
Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. So we just had a question that came in actually from a viewer that's watching and listening live here. Jennifer asks, what would you consider too much work for a 3-year-old horse? How many days a week and how long per day would be acceptable for working? I feel like that's 2 different questions, right? So what could be considered too much?
Yes, it depends a little of the horse. Normally 3 or 4 days a week for about 20 minutes should be enough. And
Okay.
normally when they are 3 years old, we break them in. We need about 3 months. The first month we launch them and they learn to carry saddle and the bridle. Second month, I launch them with the rider on. And third month, I take the lunge away. And they just go all around the indoor school, big circles, diagonals, finish, nothing more. And then we decide if the horse looks a little bit weak, not so developed, we put him out on the field again for some months. If the horse is strong enough, you can continue, but I think 4 times, 5 times maximum a week is enough and not too long. You just, in the beginning, is not so much gymnastic, it's more education. The horse should learn the aids, should respect you as a person, he should go and stop and all these basic things. Because I prefer to get the horses when they are 3 years old directly from the field, untouched. I don't like if people make lunging with a 1-year-old horse or something like that. No, I like the horse really untouched, just growing up in a big group of other horses to have a good social, how do you say, social behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then normally we can work very easily with them.
Yes, a lot less problems that way when they've sort of learned how to be a horse instead of tried to learn how to be a human.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So what would be your progression with a horse then? Let's say I'm sending you the ideal 3-year-old horse. He's not been touched. He's nothing like that. I'm sending him to you. What can we expect over the next several years?
Yes, first of all, we start to break him in 3 months. And then little by little, if the horse makes walk, trot, canter on each side, all around, big circles, then we start the first lateral movements, is normally the leg yielding. That the horse learns, no, the leg does not always push me forward. Sometimes the leg asks me to go by side a little. And is one thing, he has to learn that, but on the other hand, he starts to know his body better and how to use his own body, gives him body feeling. So we start with the leg yielding and a little overstepping around me or around a pillar, that he knows how to handle his body. And then we continue with transitions a lot, rein back a little, then comes the shoulder in. And when we have the shoulder in, the step is very small to come to travers.
Okay.
And of course, if we have a travers, we can do little by little a half pass. And all this in a very calm walk in the beginning. And only if the horse is very good in walk. In the beginning, we do lateral movements in walk, and in trot, we go straight. And then when the lateral movements are very good in walk and the horse should chew on the bit and is, how do you say, happy and is okay, relaxed, then we try to do it a little in trot. And little by little, normally, the horse is trained then to piaffe, passage, flying changes, pirouettes. We do Spanish walk with all horses. Some of them we do.
Oh, I think we may have frozen up. Uh-oh. Oh, gang, it looks like we've got, oh, there we are.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect. You were talking about Spanish walk and then we got frozen.
Yeah. So little by little, we do all high school movements.
Okay.
And we do Spanish walk with all horses. And with some of them, we do a little kneeling or so.
Okay.
Depends.
Okay, fantastic. What do you feel is the benefit for Spanish walk for all of the horses?
Yes, Spanish walk is very, very important. For example, when we get warm bloods, dressage horses, very often the walk is broken. So the horses, even they walk not like camels, but very, how do you say, very blocked, very short steps, not free in the shoulder, and really with a lot of tension. So the Spanish walk can help them to lift a little the neck, to put the poll up a little, and to give more freedom to the shoulder. And it's also very good for the balance and the coordination, because, for example, when the horse puts the right front leg really up and forward, he has to lift the left hind leg, the diagonal hind leg. He makes the same in trot too, but there he has the speed, so it's not so difficult. But in a calm walk, it's really an act of balance. And so it's good for balance, good for coordination, gives freedom to the shoulder. And like this, we repair horses in walk with help of the Spanish walk also.
Fantastic. So you're using it for rehabilitation,
yeah.
not as a trick, right? But
no, it's not a trick. No, as we said, classical way always looks for the nature of the horse. And especially the stallions, they do this a lot. If you put two stallions a little bit together, they do Spanish walk immediately. So it's a very natural movement, and we just use it. We use it to help the horse to feel better and get more body feeling.
That makes so much sense. And you're talking about doing all of the lateral work and all of this in the walk until the horse is really balanced and coordinated. You talk about how at the trot, they can have speed in their favor, so they can do things almost accidentally, right, at the trot, but not gain the value that they would get at the walk because of that coordination and the understanding, I would assume, as well. Yeah.
Yes, but normally it should be done in a collected trot. So you do it in a very calm trot because the horse needs time to bend the joints. And nowadays, riders often do it much too fast. So the legs stay very stiff. That's why they need bandages and all. And the horses always, touch their own legs because they stay stiff and do it too fast. So if you do it very slow, they have time to bend the joints. And then they start really to get light also in your hand because they start to work the back. And that's the most important point. So do it in calm trot. And many people think, yes, but this is lazy. No, lazy is another thing. In a calm trot, you should engage your horse more and more and more engaging. So it means make the hind legs really quick, make them work, but don't let all the energy flow into speed. No. Okay. Collect the energy. It's like you collect energy more and more, and then the horse can explode. He can, for example, do piaffe or gallop really forward or whatever you want. But you have to collect it in a calm movement, very engaged. So means you feel more and more vibration of the horse. The work is very exciting. Is maybe for somebody who doesn't understand, he looks very slow. But the truth is, the thing is very exciting because you feel with your body each muscle of the horse. You feel each thing, here is maybe a little bit tense, here is not straight. So you have always something to do. It's like a puzzle. And then there's a moment the horse is really in balance and light, and then you can do everything you want.
Yes, I like how you said that the energy, but not the speed, right? So it kind of like the coiling of the spring. Because so often we can see speed, but it even lacks energy sometimes.
Yes, you see riders who push, and they tell me, we ride much more forward than you. They think, because they are much more quick. That's true. I'm much more slow. But then it comes into a pirouette or a piaffe, and you see them with the red heads and the spurs, and the horse moves really lazy and slow because it's completely hanging on the shoulders. My horse, I just put my shoulders back. I don't even use my legs, and the horse starts to dance full of energy because he's in balance. And he's forward, because if I want to start full canter, he's gone. The other horse is empty because he made already 1 hour with the head down, trot, 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 trot. He's completely on the shoulders and he's empty.
Yes. Yes. Well, that makes sense. And I like how you said that the difference in that forward, right? I feel sometimes like forward is more in the mind sometimes. Right?
Of course, forward is in the head of the horse. Be willing to go on to react on the aids of the riders in each second. This is forward. Forward is not fast. That's the problem. There's always or very often a misinterpretation.
Yes.
And the other thing, if your horse makes something really good, a good piaffe or so, be brave and give reins and don't do anything with the legs for a moment to give the horse the feeling he is brilliant, he's proud, and he can go on and he wants to show himself. And that's the most important, to give the horse his personality, to put his character out, and the horse has the will to show himself. It's not you who provoke the piaffe, no, the horse wants to do it. But to get this, you have to release the horse sometimes. And the human being is an animal who wants to control everything. And we control all with our hands. Everything we touch, we have to close our fingers. We want to hold everything. So on a horse, it's very difficult for us because we have the reins and we think the reins we control all. Yes. And that's also something I think needs a lifetime, to give reins, to breathe, let the horse show himself and be part of the horse, and not you present the horse and the horse is under you and you have reins and legs and you give pressure. No, it's a big difference, but it's in our mentality or in our brains. So that's something if we are able to, we should work on this our whole life. But there are riders, they don't have this idea. I don't know if they never felt a horse exploding under them and really doing the things almost alone, or if they don't like, I don't know. But I know that not every rider is able to do it or to feel this.
Or to feel it, right, yeah. Exactly. And that, I think that brings to mind the idea of having the horse in front of the leg, which is very similar to the idea of being forward. I've ridden several horses that were galloping and running away, but I still wouldn't say they were in front of the leg, right?
No. For example, for me was a big wish to have a Russian horse here, and I bought a Haltekiner in Russia. And he was a racehorse. So he was 1 year a racehorse, and then I got him. And this horse, of course, he can do gallop very, very fast, but the horse is not forward because he didn't know what is the rider's legs. So with him, we had to do a lot of work. For example, we have been, we started this horse riding at the launch, because if you put your leg, he stops even a little because he is very fine and he starts to breathe against you and stop. So we had to tell him, no, go on. And then he was walking in short steps and then he started gallop, but not trot. So it was very difficult in the beginning to put him from longer walk to a trot forward because he always made gallop. And that means he was not forward and he doesn't know the leg. Right. And this is an important work. But running fast or a horse from a race course is not a horse ridden forward. It's a big difference.
It is a big difference. And it's like you said, so many riders don't ever get to experience that or feel what that true forward is. Yeah. And then they're trying to create something that they've never experienced.
No, and you can even have a horse forward, a little bit lazy on the leg, can also be forward. If the horse is lazy on the leg, does not mean he's behind the leg. Sometimes it's the contrary. Sometimes there are horses you put the leg and they start to move, but they don't go on. So they are sensitive on the leg, but behind. And you can have a horse a little bit lazy on the leg, but forward. So this, now we are already very deep in a very difficult topic. It's not easy to understand what we are talking about, but I hope for the listeners it's still okay.
Well, and there's so many layers to that. And again, that's where it comes down to what we've talked about several times here, your experience, you know, knowing what's really going on inside that horse and being able to feel that.
Yeah, to know what is forward, I think for me was minimum 15 years to understand what means forward. It's not so easy.
Yes, right. Well, and you know, going with that point, I did an interview just a few days ago with Gerd Hauschman, and I know that he was with you, co-wrote the book Classical Schooling with the Horse in Mind, and he's been talking about proper riding for many years, and he said in the interview, you know, it was not until 12 years ago that I rode the first proper shoulder in. You know, so lots of riding, lots of time, but a long time to feel what.
Maybe it was here.
Yeah, it may have been. Yeah, I should question him about that. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it just comes back to experience and riding. You can't just ride one or two horses, right? And get that feeling.
Yeah. No, we never stop learning. It's really endless, this story.
Yes, for sure. So we've got actually a couple other questions that have come in, if you don't mind me coming to them. So Ainsley sends in a question about horses that come for rehabilitation and corrective work. When the horse becomes healthy in the body again, but struggles in the mind, what are some things that you like to do to help the horse to trust and grow again mentally?
That's an interesting question, but I can tell you, normally these things go together. So means as soon as a horse gets physically better, normally he starts to trust us because the horse, he feels that we treat him well and that we help him to control his body better. We don't work against him, we work with him. So I never had that a horse is getting better in the body, but he is still sad and unhappy and so. No, it is all these things work together. That's why it is classical. We respect the nature. The horse starts to be happy because they also feel that we are very fair. We never ask something they cannot give us. So but we ask every day a little more. It's not that we say, with him doesn't work, so we let him. No, they also feel we don't give them up. We try, we ask a little, we caress, next day, one step more. And so they feel we are fair, we want to help them, and they start to cooperate. And when they cooperate with us, they get more happy. And of course, you can do all our horses go on the field. You can do lots of things. They go hacking a little, and they are allowed to run free in the arena, all these things together. So it's not every day you take them from the box to the arena and make just gymnastic. No, there are many things around. Or for
there's
example,
a lot more that goes into that.
We feed our horses 6 times a day with hay, 3 times with oats. So they always have something to do. They all have paddocks in front of the boxes, so they can watch the life on the farm. So they are part of the life here. They are not somewhere in a dark corner and just waiting to go out and make gymnastic. No, they are part of the life here. And like this, I think they get more and more happy.
Yes, that makes sense. And I find sometimes it's not just what you do, but it's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the exercise itself is part of it, but the entire lifestyle is a bigger piece of that as well.
Yes, and sometimes we forget to caress the horse. Nothing is normal. It's not normal that a horse allows us to sit on his back. So everything the horse, for example, I start piaffe and he makes one step. I caress him, we stop, we jump off the horse, we put him back in the box. And so he feels, oh, today I made something really good. They liked it. So
Yes.
you give him a good feeling. And that's also a point. Really caress the horse, because it's not normal that he's doing that for us.
Right, right. And as you said earlier, he has to want to express himself with you.
Yes, then next day he's coming into the arena, and the horses are not stupid. They don't forget anything. And then he said, yesterday they stopped and they have been very happy when I made this. So maybe he's trying himself. Oh, look at me. And like this, you get the horse on your side.
Yes, yes, that's perfect. That makes so much sense. So a question came in from Jody. Do you travel to teach? Uh-oh.
Yes, I do. But we have an agreement, Vera and I, because I traveled a lot, really a lot, very far. And now we have an agreement. Vera, my first rider, she went to United States, she went to Argentina, she went to Emirates and many places far away. And I travel more around Europe. I make Austria, Switzerland, Italy, Netherlands, Sweden, all the things not too far, where I have to take the plane for 2 hours. It's enough. Yes, and you know, yes, we normally have about 55 horses here for training. Now we reduced a little. So there's no time to travel because we have a lot of work with the horses at home. So there are some trainers, they travel a lot because they maybe have at home no horses or 3 or 4, but normally we had 55 and now we reduced a little. So we have so much to do at home. I cannot be away all the time.
Yes, yes. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. So with this global pandemic of this COVID-19 going around, have you seen much of a change at home with what you've got going on, with having so many horses there to tend to anyway?
At home, the work is the same because we have here a lot of things to do, but we lost clinics in United States, Netherlands, and Switzerland. Okay. And then I have lots of lectures. I lost all my lectures for the moment, and we have many people because we have some guest boxes who travel here with the horses from Italy or France and so on, and we lost all this, of course. So we still have a lot of work here, and but all the other things, clinics and lectures, they are gone, and that's why we were thinking about how we can help the riders. That's why we started the idea of the online clinic. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite a responsibility when you're trying to teach so many riders, and to have something like this get in the way of that, it can be a daunting task to find out how to help. Yeah. 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 So, okay. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm looking through here, and those seem to be the biggest of the questions that have come in from the audience. So that's great. So I have some, if you don't mind, I have some kind of wrap-up questions that I like to ask. So first is, what would be an actionable tip or thought that you would give for riders that they could take to the barn and work on with their horse, or something they can think about if they can't be with their horse today?
Just one thing, be patient. And if you have a problem, start thinking. Don't use your muscles immediately, use your brain.
Yes, I love that. That's great. That's great. What is a recent book that you've read or video that you've watched?
I like very much. It's a German master. His name is Udo Bürger. He was veterinary and rider in the cavalry school in Hanover before the Second World War. And he has a very good, simple language to explain difficult things. And for example, he explains, never use reins and legs against each other. If you use your hand, don't use your leg. If you use leg, no hands in this second. If no, he says, and it's written like this, is like a car. If you want to go forward, don't use the, how do you say, the brakes.
The brake.
So yes, if you use both together, the car starts to, was heißt denn qualmen? To, like you make fire, the, what's that? Smoke.
Oh, smoke, yes.
The car will develop smoke.
Yes.
And yes, and that is what most of the riders do, he said, and normally they had to ride with a smoke mask. And, yes, and he describes problems like this, and that's very good, I think, because often the books are written difficult to understand. You have to read and again to read to understand. But he is very good in his language. So
That's
I like
fantastic. Udo Berger.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Wonderful. So what is something that the horse has given to you?
It's difficult because it's my whole life. It's all my life. Without the horses, I feel like useless. So it's all.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all of it. So this is a constant journey of discovery and improvement, right? With our horses and with ourselves. What area of your horsemanship or your self-development are you currently working on or wanting to improve?
All is, of course, the seat, always the seat.
Okay.
And another thing is, yes, often is to find the key to each horse a little bit more quick, because sometimes we are driving around and searching, and sometimes it's so clear, but we don't see it. And often we work weeks and weeks, and then suddenly, oh, okay, like this. Yeah.
I'm glad that happens to you too.
Of course.
Good, fantastic. Okay, this next one might be my favorite question. If you had a giant billboard advertisement for the whole world to see, what would be the message that you would put on that?
Oh, I don't know the English word, but Nachhaltigkeit. The most important is that we think about what we are doing and the influence of what we are doing on all the other things. So means if we find something and we think is good, we have to see if it's good for the environment, for the animals, for other people, and so on. And that is what we lost a little.
Okay.
And because we think it's good if we have more money and quick, more money, and more money means more progress. And I think, what is the word? Sustainability.
Okay.
Yes, that's the word. Yes, and that is the most important. And I think the crisis we have now is a little bit because of that. And on the other side is really a chance that we think about of what we are doing, and that we are not alone on this planet, and we have to find a way to live together with nature, with the animals, and not to destroy and use things only for us and think it will go on like this. So I think we are in a crisis, but it's a big chance on the other side.
Yes, it gives us a chance to really reflect on that. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Anja, thank you very much. How can folks find you? Our listeners that are tuning in that maybe haven't heard of you before or are looking for more information, how can they find out about you and this online clinic that you have coming up as well?
Yes, I have, of course, a website, and we have a Facebook site. And for example, we make something very interesting for 10 years now. We make an international workshop here on our farm, and we have normally guests from 21 nations every year. Is a big group from, I don't know, from Thailand to South Africa, from Canada to Russia, from everywhere. They come here, and we demonstrate our work and explain the work with each horse. And we work 1 week really together. And this year, I think, I'm not sure, but I think we cannot do it. But this is very interesting. Bavaria, we are in the south of Germany. is a very nice place. We have mountains, lakes, we have everything here. So people love to travel here to watch the work with the horses, but also the nature here around. So this is really a very good offer, but I think it's possible only next year. And so long, maybe we can stay in contact with the online clinic.
Yeah.
Because we produce it in English, and I hope in June it will be ready.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, Anja, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you better and hearing more about your thoughts and ideas with horses.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll do a closing here. Hang on for me here just a moment. Gang, I want to thank you so much for tuning in for episode number 50 of Talking About Horses. I really appreciate you giving Anja Beran and I your ear for this time. Please remember that if you've missed any of it, you can access the full broadcast through Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, or by streaming directly from my website by accessing the Talking About Horses page from the education drop-down menu. Through whatever platform you're listening, please be sure to give us a rating, a comment, a review, and a share with your friends. Tune in next time. Thanks so much, gang.